Commander Marcus Rivera had negotiated with 17 different alien species across 3 galactic sectors, but none had prepared him for this moment. The Kithara delegation sat across the conference table in the neutral station's diplomatic suite, their fox-like features betraying nothing as they listened to his carefully rehearsed proposal for the mining rights to Kepler 442b. The Terran Colonial Authority believes that a joint venture would benefit both our civilizations, Marcus continued, his hands gesturing toward the holographic display of the mineral-rich planet. Our extraction technology combined with your knowledge of sustainable... That's when it happened. A warm, impossibly soft appendage wrapped around his right ankle with surprising strength. Marcus's words died in his throat as he glanced down to see a rust-colored tail tipped with cream-white fur, coiled firmly around his leg like a living rope. His eyes traveled up to meet the amber gaze of Lyra Lay Swiftstrike, the Kithara trade negotiator whose reputation preceded her across known space. She hadn't moved from her seated position. Her elegant hands remained folded on the table, her pointed ears perked forward with apparent interest in his presentation. But that damned tail of hers had somehow stretched the considerable distance between them and claimed his leg as its territory. "Please, Commander Rivera," she said in that melodic voice that had reportedly charmed or unsettled diplomats from the Andorian hegemony to the crystalline collective. "Do continue. You were explaining your extraction methods." Marcus tried to subtly shift his leg. The tail's grip tightened. The other members of the Terran delegation, Ambassador Sarachen Okafor and trade specialist Viktor Kozlov, seemed oblivious to his predicament. They sat attentively, waiting for him to resume his pitch to what many considered the most important trade partners humanity had encountered. The Kithara were enigmatic beings, resembling the foxes of ancient Earth, but standing nearly as tall as humans. Their society valued cunning, elegance, and what they called the art of indirect communication. Humanity had been trying to establish formal trade relations with them for 5 standard years, ever since first contact at the Proxima station. Our thermal extraction process," Marcus stammered, acutely aware of the tail's warmth against his leg even through his diplomatic uniform, minimizes environmental impact while maximizing yield efficiency. Lyra Lay's ears twitched, the Kithara equivalent of a smile. "How fascinating. And this process, it requires close cooperation between our species?" The way she emphasized cooperation made Marcus's throat dry. He reached for his water glass, only to realize that any significant movement might draw attention to his current situation. "Extremely close cooperation," he managed, wondering if she could somehow sense his elevated heart rate through that tail of hers. Behind Lyra Lay, her aide, a younger Kithara named Fenwick Brightwhisker, seemed to be suppressing what could only be described as silent laughter. His own tail was swishing with barely contained amusement. "Commander," Ambassador Chen Okafor interjected, "perhaps you could elaborate on the security arrangements?" Marcus tried to focus on the question, but Lyra Lay's tail had begun to move in slow, hypnotic patterns around his leg. It wasn't uncomfortable, quite the opposite, actually, but it was definitely distracting. "Security, yes," he said, his voice slightly higher than usual. "We've developed automated defense systems that can protect mining operations from space pirates and other threats." "Other threats?" Lyra Lay leaned forward slightly, her golden eyes never leaving his face. "Such as? Asteroid impacts, solar flares, hostile wildlife?" Marcus paused, realizing how ridiculous it sounded to discuss hostile wildlife while being essentially captured by what amounted to an overgrown, sentient foxtail. "Environmental hazards of all kinds." The sound she made was almost a purr. "And how does humanity typically handle being caught in unexpected situations. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Marcus finally understood what was happening. This wasn't a negotiation tactic in the traditional human sense. It was a test. The Kithara were famous for their indirect methods of evaluation. They wanted to see how he would respond to the unexpected, how he would handle being metaphorically cornered, or in this case, literally tethered. "We adapt," Marcus said, his confidence returning. He looked directly into Lyralay's amber eyes. "Humans are excellent at working within unexpected parameters. Even when those parameters become more restrictive." Her tail tightened again, not painfully, but noticeably. "Especially then." Marcus smiled. "We find that constraints often lead to the most creative solutions." For the first time since the meeting began, Lyralay's expression shifted to something that might have been genuine surprise. The other Kithara delegation members, who had been silent observers until now, exchanged glances. "You're not going to ask me to release you?" she asked. "Why would I? You're clearly making a point about trust and adaptability and partnership. Besides," Marcus gestured to the holographic planet still rotating between them, "Kepler 442b isn't going anywhere, and neither, apparently, am I. We might as well continue our discussion." The silence stretched for several heartbeats. Then Lyralay's ears perked fully forward, and her tail began to unwind from his leg with deliberate slowness. "Fascinating," she murmured. "Most species we negotiate with either panic or attempt to assert dominance when placed in compromising positions. Humans have learned that the most profitable partnerships often begin in the most uncomfortable circumstances," Marcus replied. "We're used to making the best of complicated situations." Lyralay's tail finally released him completely, curling gracefully around her own chair. "Very well, Commander Rivera. Let us discuss the terms of this joint venture. I believe this partnership may be more adaptable than we initially anticipated." As the formal negotiations resumed, Marcus caught Fenwick still grinning in the background. He made a mental note to add a footnote to his mission report. "When dealing with the Kithara, expect the unexpected, and maybe invest in ankle guards for future diplomatic missions." After all, this was only their first meeting.